Hello everyone, this is Jake from CINECALIBER. In today's video, I will be reviewing episode 4 of the new season of House of the Dragon, which is season 2. Now guys, as I just stated, this will be my fourth review on this TV series, and if you guys want to see my previous reviews on this TV series to catch up, there will be links in the description below of this video. Also, this is one of my most anticipated shows of the 2024 year, and if you guys would like to see a more detailed analysis of those shows, there will be another link in the description of the video of this video as well. And without further ado, we're gonna kind of get into it here, guys. So let me say right off the bat, this was arguably the biggest episode of the season yet, and we're about halfway through season 2 now, which is kind of crazy because the season literally just started. But let me tell you, after the end of this episode, I have to say the stakes couldn't be higher. And that's all I really want to kind of just tease there. But without further ado, we're going to kind of go through a recap of episode 3 on the events that I thought was relevant for this episode. So from the get-go, basically, guys, the Dance of Dragons War is officially here. We have both Team Black and Team Green making moves basically in this last episode. One of the things was Daemon. He had conquered Harrenhal in the last episode, and he was looking to recruit the disassembled Riverlands, House Bracken and House Black, as his army. But unfortunately, both of these families are going through this long family feud, and somehow Daemon has to kind of unite them to kind of grow his army for Rhaenyra. At the same time, he's dealing with these weird visions where he's seeing all these almost like reflections of his own inner guilt on things that he has done in the past, which I haven't really been able to make sense of. Is it just that Harrenhal is haunted, or is this someone causing this to happen to him? That kind of remains to be seen, but that was a huge focal point in this last episode. And then the other side of things, you have the new hand of the king, Sir Criston Cole, who has begun to march his army to conquer towns that have proclaimed for Rhaenyra, but he basically wants to force them to proclaim for King Aegon. And so hopefully, his hopes is to basically grow his army that way. And then once his army is grown larger enough, he would then meet Daemon to then conquer Harrenhal, which again, Harrenhal is like a huge tactical point for anyone that can conquer due to its position on the river for the most part. So that's like the main goal for everyone. Also, last episode we had Rhaenyra. In a last-ditch effort, she snuck into King's Landing to meet with Alicent in secret to try and sway her from carrying out this war, but that had ended with the revelation that Alicent misunderstood King Viserys' final words. Basically, she misunderstood what he was saying about Aegon, because King Viserys had said to her that Aegon spoke on his final breath was of a prophecy of the prince that was promised called Aegon, who we all know is Jon Snow. But for Alicent, she thought that Viserys was talking about their son Aegon. And yeah, that was a huge slap in the face. And even after that reveal, Alicent basically chose to still kind of be like, you know what, we're going to still go to war. And that just kind of just showed how selfish of a character she truly is here. And yeah, so Rhaenyra did try, and Alicent just kind of slapped her hand away. So, the war, there's no going back here, guys. That's basically what that scene revealed to me. At the same time, last episode, King Aegon, he's been attempting to rule as king, but he's been meeting interference by members of his council, and also Larys has been kind of poisoning him against others. And as a result of that, Aegon has actually officially declared Larys as his official master of whispers. So we'll kind of see how that plays out here as well. And then the other thing that I want to talk about here with Aegon was that he had embarrassed his brother Aemond in episode 3 in a brothel, which to me continues the build on this bitter relationship between the two. So in the past, Aegon has bullied Aemond. We've seen that We've seen how tragic, Aemon has become because of the treatment by his brother, and amongst other things, because he also had lost his eye to Luke, and that kind of just all builds up here. But yeah, everything Aegon has done is just like that humiliation at the hands of his brother. It just kind of added more fuel to that fire, so to speak. And then also, guys, the last thing I wanted to recap was just this new character, Alan. He has been making brief appearances throughout the season, and this episode is where we finally get to see some answers to the relevance of his character into the narrative. And yeah, that's everything I had to recap here. Without further ado, we're going to go into the actual episode 4 review, and we're going to be talking about what was a hit, the good of this episode. So, like I was saying before, this is the biggest episode that I have seen so far. I arguably think it's one of the best episodes. It arguably is the best episode of the season, and one of the best episodes of the entire Game of Thrones franchise. That's how good it was. But before we get into the big juicy things, I wanted to get the small things out of the way of what happened in this episode. But basically, everything kind of boiled down into this big battle of Rook's Rest. But the first thing I wanted to cover was Daemon. So Daemon, he continues to struggle with his own demons in this episode, and he has this confrontation with a woman named Alice Rivers, who we've kind of had a glimpse of in the last episode, but she seems to be some sort of witch, and through this confrontation with her, it maybe perhaps kind of teases that Daemon will in fact maybe betray Rhaenyra and take the army that he is growing at the Riverlands for himself to start maybe his own quest for the throne, which we all know he has been trying to get since last season. I thought that this episode did a really good job just kind of keep cracking at his character and his motives. He keeps seeing hallucinations of people that shouldn't be there, and I really think that, this is all building up to him kind of just deciding to go on his own, but we'll have to see what happens there. And at the same time, there's a scene in this episode where Rhaenys confronts Alan, who has been popping up, like I said, so often throughout this season. And after the confrontation, I realized that she was insinuating in this scene that Alan somehow is the bastard son of Corlys, her husband, which is huge because Corlys, at the end of the day, he does need someone to take over his seat of power when he goes, being that Laenor is believed to be dead, even though we all know he faked his death last season. So I'm curious to see where that's all going to develop here. But yeah, this episode basically confirms that Alan is indeed the bastard son of Corlys. So I'm sure we're going to have more to come for that. We also get a glimpse of Alicent in this episode. She is starting to investigate what Rhaenyra had told her in the last episode about the whole Prince to be Promised claim. And she's trying to see, is it accurate? But you can kind of tell that she believes it to be accurate, but through her actions, she just seems guilty. She's just looking through all these books. Like, you can just tell that she is really starting to doubt her own son's claim to the throne, basically. And we also see her, she's taking this drug. It looks like she's trying to get rid of a possible pregnancy, being that she was basically getting milk of the poppy, which she said was for a friend of hers, but she basically was drinking it for herself. But while all this is transpiring, Lord Larys basically is noticing all of this, and kind of just to go into him, I mean, Larys, he's been iconic in this season, but it's kind of funny because he has the most screen time in this episode, but I also feel like he doesn't have very powerful moments in this episode either. Most of his time was just spent updating the king on progress reports, and then just checking in with Alicent while noticing her guilty feelings. But yeah, he's just kind of settling in as the new Master of Whisperers for the most part. Nothing too crazy there, but we'll see what happens with him. And really, that's all those small things that happen. We're going to get into the big parts now, guys. This big battle. There's a lot that transpired here that we have to kind of break down. So first off, let's talk about Aegon here. So again, he's continuing to struggle to rule as king in this episode. And basically there's a moment where he realizes that his small council, they're just kind of deciding things without his approval. And even when he seeks his mother for comfort, she basically tells him that he is a nobody and that the council members will just take care of the war, which then again causes him to reach this huge boiling point where he then decides to just be like, you know what, I'm going to go off and join my army at Rook's Rest and screw everyone else. And he's going to prove himself to be this worthy king. Now again, there's there's been this relationship between Aemond and Aegon that has been kind of bitter for the most part, and that kind of plays a huge part in this episode as well. Basically, this episode, there's no going back for these two. The relationship has reached a breaking point between the two. Again, Aegon humiliated Aemon in the last episode, which added to this rivalry. And basically, there's a moment in this episode where Aemon embarrasses Aegon during a small council meeting by demeaning him in Valyrian language, basically showing him that, Aemon knows his stuff. He knows how to plan for war, and he knows the Valyrian language, whereas Aegon does not. It was a really big moment of weakness for Aegon here. But again, this is all just adding fuel to that fire, and it reaches a boiling point at the Battle of Rook's Rest, as Aegon flies off with his dragon, Sunfire, to fight alongside his army. This whole thing ruins a planned attack by Criston Cole and Aemond. The end result occurs when Aemon uses this as an opportunity to kind of just take out his brother when he's busy fighting Rhaenys. And he's pretty much successful because he causes Aegon to crash down with his dragon. And even at the end of the episode, he kind of just storms off to kind of finish the job, and he's interrupted by Criston Cole before he can basically finish his brother off. But at that point, guys, the damage has been done, and Aemon most likely will be acting as the ruler, at least until Aegon is back in proper shape, which is huge for this character and for the war. Again, this was the first big battle of the season. It did not disappoint. The battle sequence is only about 20 minutes, but it was worth every minute, guys. I really enjoyed this episode. Let's see here, what else we got? Also, this was a big episode for Criston Cole. He has been conquering town after town, and he's growing Team Green's army more and more. And this episode does a great job showcasing how strong of a military leader he is, and that he shows true leadership and resolve during the Battle of Rook's Rest, especially when things don't go to plan due to Aegon's interruption of Aemon's ambush. He basically keeps everyone in line. He keeps this battle going, and as an end result, they do end up winning this battle. And let's kind of get into, there's a big death in this episode, guys. This is a major spoiler, so if anyone wants to tune out, you can. Basically, the big death of this episode is that of Rhaenys. Rhaenys basically has decided to go in Rhaenyra's stead to lead their forces against Cole, and she shows true leadership and resolve through this battle. But at the end of the day, Aemon has the advantage due to the size of his dragon Vhagar, and basically the episode ends with Vhagar killing Meleys and Rhaenys, then falls to her death with her dragon, which again will have huge ramifications on Rhaenyra's council. I mean, Rhaenyra's council, they're already kind of at each other's throats for more power, and Rhaenys is such a strong advisor. So this is going to really shake everything up for them. And even Rhaenyra's son, Jace, is basically questioning Rhaenyra for, kind of just being inactive during this whole war and having her council just kind of lead everything, and everything's just been in disarray. It's not good. It's very bad for Rhaenyra right now, and we'll have to see if she finds a way to recoup from this. And then I want to circle back to Aemon, guys. He is the true MVP of this episode. I enjoy this character. It seems to be that he's being set up as like a tragic character, because again, he lost his eye, as we found out last season. He was being harassed by his brother Aegon, and then when he killed Luke in the season finale, you can tell he kind of had a sense of remorse. But then here, when he does the same thing for Bernice, it seems like he kind of enjoyed it. He had like had more of a darker side, showing that, and it kind of shows that with each kill he takes, he's becoming more and more sinister, and kind of giving into his more abusive uprising, so to speak. And it makes sense. Like the writing and everything is doing a tremendous job in making him this tragic character, and also making him a bit of a badass, so to speak. And now, with everything that's transpired, he killed his aunt, and he basically took out Aegon, and now he basically he has his own claim to the throne now. So I'm very interested to see what happens with his character moving forward in this second half of the season. But that was everything that was a hit for me in this episode. We're gonna go into what was a miss, the bad. Really, guys, I had no complaints with this episode. It truly hit the mark on everything that I have criticized in past reviews for this show. And really, my only wish was like maybe the battle could be a bit longer. But it's a slight criticism at best, because those 20 minutes were a godsend. And the build up from the last three episodes to this episode was just, it's everyone's doing their jobs right. But between the writing, the storytelling, the characterization, and the performances, it's just outstanding stuff here, guys. And we're going to kind of go into the conclusion now, wrap everything up. So again, this episode is the best episode to date, and has made all the storytelling and build-up in the last three episodes well worth it. Its continued in-depth characterization, world building, and outstanding performances continue to give us a cast to love and hate. And the Battle of Rook's Rest was a spectacle to behold in its 20-minute runtime. Explained that with this episode, we are in the halfway mark of the season, and I give this episode a current rating of a 5 out of 5, and I cannot wait to see what unfolds in the second half of the season. And really, that's all I have for today for this episode, guys. As the next episode comes out, we will review that, and we will go from there. But yeah, I'm very excited to see where the show goes in the second half. This was a huge turning point for everyone in this episode. And as always, please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. And this is Jake from CINECALIBER.